Ralph Hayes Jr., reality chick, also known as that big fat jackass. Your host for Spleen Squeezins, the rantings of a lone lunatic out in the middle of Marietta, Ohio, in the squamous depths of his trailer, rendering his opinions that everybody doesn't like. How are y'all? Hello, hello, hello. Adrian Hall's in the room already. How you doing? How you doing? How you doing? I've managed to fix the problem. 1, 2, testing 1, 2, 3, 4, testing 1. Well, temporarily anyway. It's work. Comics page. In the news, it seems that the 9 Supremes have made raging at. Let's see. First of all, they've declared both gay marriage and Obamacare both legal. Let's put it this way. On the ruling on gay marriage, first disaster for this country, because they are now going to be able to do what they've always wanted to do. They're going to start arresting people who speak out about homosexuality. Look, they've already sued people into oblivion. Literally sued people into bankruptcy for not making a wedding cake for them. Little precious little asses. You think they are not going to take every ounce of revenge that they can't get, Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And it was already de facto to complain about homosexuality in our culture. Now it's basically legitimate. If you preach against homosexuality, if you say gay marriage is a legitimate institution, they will sue you and they will probably arrest you. And that's, they haven't written out any laws or warrants yet, but let's put it this way. There was more suspense as to whether or not they would do a countdown on New Year's Eve than whether there's a countdown to when they first start arresting people for this. This was their goal. That was their goal. That was their agenda. They've got the 5 old... I want you to talk about... This is the irony. Here's irony for you. The same people who throw a temper tantrum every time they don't get their way and start screaming about how old in this country got together and got 5 old white to overthrow throughout this country what they wanted. Legalize gay weddings. Look, they legalized gay weddings de facto. They have criminalized refusing to perform gay weddings. They've already, they've already practically criminalized criticizing homosexuality or refusing to render customer service to them because of ethical boundaries. In both in the old ruling and in the gay marriage ruling, they didn't rule according to the law. They ruled according to. We aren't ruled by law anymore in this country. We're ruled by a handful of self-anointed elitists. I give it 10 years before. I give it less than 5 years before if we do not have a literal miracle in turnaround in this country, and I'm talking deep root Christian revival. Followed by a return to conservative Christian for offending people. There's evidence this sudden on rebel flags all over the Amazon.com is claiming the federal government politely requested they do this. And more and more it's coming out that many of these companies that suddenly yanked them got little messages from the government, you know. Isn't that interesting? Oh my. I read an article just a short while ago. It was written by a Christian man. And he's going on about how, you know, it sort of griped me because his first statement was, you know, we all talk about, our church talks about all these sexual sins as if they were the only sins, and we don't talk about racism, we don't talk about gluttony, we don't talk about, you know, and you know, that has alienated people. And okay, let's back up. First of all, he proposes a question, and his answer to the church became a bunch of hypocrites, that we spent all our time sexuality, but we didn't say anything about divorce or racism or gluttony or any of the other sins that are just as bad. First of all, that's horse apples. I'm sorry, that is absolute horse apples. Hello, hello, hello. I am sure there are a lot of denominations out there that, you know, have publicly, openly softened their approach, but there are still thousands, if not tens of preachers and teachers out there day and night have been preaching about these very things. They're not any softer, trust me. They're still full of hellfire and brimstone as always. And no, it's not that we didn't preach. Yeah. Oh, well, excuse me. Yeah. Racism. First of all, racism is a brickbat that people chuck around at people who disagree with them. Racism has become a virtual non-issue in this country. It's not a real. It's a trumped up. An issue is because of race, pumping it up for all they're worth. It being a real, you know, the white on minority, what they're really talking about, has ceased to be a back is because you have a bunch. Granddaddy had to put up with your racism. And furthermore, we do not have. Yes, we kind of focused on the sexual sins in our society because they were the predominant issue in our society. Look, we did not have gluttony pride marches in the streets. You didn't have you didn't have people petitioning for the rights of the slothful. The sin of lust was running away. We had people, sodomites, out in the streets performing acts of sexual depravity out in public. So you will excuse us if we focus on the burning building that we were in. And everybody, and the usual excuses, oh, the church went weak and soft. You know, all the, stopped, ministering like a church. What did the church do wrong? The world falls into sin and decay, and their question is, what did the church do wrong? We've got arsonists burning down buildings, and everybody wants to blame the firemen. It wasn't, the church, maybe the church could have been more vigilant and stronger and put more effort into into whatever issue the various sermonettes are about. But here, I want you to consider one really simple, fundamental, basic, practical that might be responsible for our nation's moral collapse. Let's see, when was this? Let me pull up a date here. Let's see here. Now, Scopes monkey trial. Yay, Wikipedia. Scopes monkey trial. It was in 1925 when this case was done. It was propped up. 1925. Okay? That the atheists and evolutionists ginned up a trial to force atheists teach evolution in schools. Because even back then there were still people who were willing to be out. This is a crackpot theory. It's not scientific in the least. You can't test it. It's a belief. You cannot possibly like that. So they came in and they found Scopes, John Thomas Scopes, who was not a regular teacher of science, by the way. And they got him to say that he would say on stand that he had taught evolution in his class. He signed on board for this. They were literally, deliberately creating a controversy so that they could drag this into a court. You see, because they knew they'd never get it past the electorate. They would never get it, they changed in the proper constitutional fashion. They were going to have to get an activist judge to do it for them. Just like they always do. And they ginned up this trial. The evolutionists lost, by the way, but it still resulted in the law of the land so that they started teaching evolution in science classes in public schools. Now, since the late 1920s, every school children in the United States has effectively been brought into a government school, sat down, and taught effectively, that Bible your parents believe, the first book, it's complete rubbish, throw it out. They were taught by the government that the Bible was make-believe. And look, you can't throw out the book of Genesis without throwing out the rest of it. The principle of Genesis is, wherefore by one man sin and death entered into the world, by Jesus Christ himself. That God created the world, sin and death enter the world by man. Evolution says that billions of years of death preceded man ever walking the face of the earth. You know, the between the philosophy of evolution and the teachings of the Bible is absolute. But every generation, think about this, every generation since 1920 been brought into school and taught that the Bible is a fairy tale. And their preacher and their Sunday school teacher are all ignorant and unenlightened. Oh, they just haven't been taught science like. And that has been going on for, let's see, my parents' generation was in the 60s. My generation was what, the 50s, 40s? We've got at least 4 generations. 3, 4, 5 generations. From 1925 to 2015. That's 90 years. Every child that came into that science has been taught that evolution is science. It's incontrovertible fact that, you know, and science is real. Religion is just all fluffy stuff, you know. And that the Bible is all just, you know, religion and philosophy. Oh, it's just fluffy. It's real. It doesn't really matter. 90 years. Think. And you wonder why this generation is so far from God? It used to be that you could for a fact that pretty much every kid on your street went to a church. Went to a Sunday school class. My grandparents' generation. My parents' generation, you know, that was almost gone. My generation, there are people who, you know, children, grandchildren, parents, none of them have ever even been in a church. They don't know what the Bible teaches. They've never heard a Sunday school lesson. They just pick it up by cultural osmosis from Hot Topic and 4chan. What little they know about the Bible they get from websites written by snotty, Arrested Development atheists. It's hysterical. I mean, they go out and they talk about, oh, you believe that God, you know, you believe that Noah got all those animals on that boat. And I'm like, okay, how big was the boat? Oh, imagine that. They managed to fit a zoo onto a super tanker, basically. And you find that a stretch. For 90 years, they've been taught that the Bible is a fairy tale. And we wonder why they do not believe in the morals that our society was founded on. You know, I just get a little tired of everybody blaming the church for not being able to flap its arms and Well, we already tried, we've tried reasoning with them. They don't want to hear. They do not want to hear. They do not want to argue us on a rational basis. They're presented with a challenge. Who do they send to talk to a scientist? They send Bill Nye the Science Guy, a TV celebrity. That's how they work. They don't want to engage. Let's put it this way: the debate on evolution with Bill Nye and the other guy. I mean, foregone conclusion. A TV celebrity who knows how to cater to children versus an actual scientist who does research, but is probably the most boring man alive. I've listened to the guy's lectures, and he is very thorough. He is very intelligent. He is very, very detailed. But he is very, very a dramatic speaker. A lot of the Bible is allegorical, but a lot of it is not. The world literally was created in 6 days. You talk to the people answering Genesis, they can sit down with you and show you the material proof of that. Or rather, they can show you the evidence that backs up the theory. That's the mistake most people make, is that it's not a scientific debate, it's a forensic debate. You see, the scientific method consists of discovering a phenomenon, developing a theory about the phenomenon, and testing the theory in a... It's to be test a control group, and try to recreate the phenomenon, and you try to test the theory that way. Well, basic phenomenon in the real world aren't tested by the scientific method, quote unquote. They call it the experimentational method. Because let's put it this way. I've used this metaphor before. You cannot scientifically or experimentally prove the existence of Abraham Lincoln. The phenomenon known as Abraham Lincoln. You could not really recreate him in a lab. What you do is that you examine the material evidence that exists. Stories, history books, the autopsy, his grave, so on and so forth. That's forensic method. Now, there is no real way that you can recreate creation, the first day of the existence of the universe, however you want to put it. Not a lab big enough. What you have to do is examine the evidence and use the forensic method and determine which theory the evidence hews most closely to. The Sherlock Holmes method, if you like. Evolution does not even meet the standard of it can't be tested, by definition. And in fact, the way they write evolutionary theory, quote unquote, you can't test it. Because if every test they supposedly come with a test has to be falsifiable. To be a possible true result and a false result. And the objective of an experiment is to prove your theory wrong. I'm not sure if that concept gets across or if that's really easy to grasp. But, when you make an experiment, you're not trying to prove, you're testing it to try that will prove it wrong. When the test fails to falsify your hypothesis, like Joe believes that this Joe believes that this wine glass is made of glass. I believe that this wine glass is made of transparent aluminum or diamond or something unbreakable. I'm going to test my theory by smashing the glass as hard as I can with a hammer. But anyway, you get the idea. The only results that you get from talking with, actually conducting experiments or research with an evolutionist is they come up with a theory of how evolution went. And when it's proven wrong, they have two results. Well, my theory was true. My grant is coming through. And the other result, whoa, isn't, it must be an entirely different form of evolution over here. Isn't evolution wonderful? No matter what the results of the question, no matter what how the question is phrased, the answer is always evolution. No matter the results of the test, the answer is always this evolved. But there is your answer. There is your answer as to why our society is coming apart at the seams. Look, we've seen what. Well, they like to say that Australians are overwhelmingly atheist. Yes, but they were founded by people with a background from a Christian culture, and they are still the remnants of Christian. And I suspect that there are more in Australia than there actually can. Submit to you this: they are more leftist by the hour. Basically chasing America down the rat hole. Christianity has begun. Darwinism is the other religion that dominates our culture. Gained ground because it's government enforced. Any scientist who comes out with a theory that doesn't burn a pinch of incense to the theory of evolution send his reputation goodbye. Who speak of intelligent design, forget biblical creation. If they even say that science is against life and the universe happening by accident, they are pilloried. And every generation of children, every generation of school children for 90 years has been indoctrinated in school by their teachers that they came from a monkey, came from a lizard, which came from a little blob swimming around in the ocean, which came from random chemicals. It was all big accident. And that Bible that their parents believed in, the faith of their fathers, is a fairy tale. Society is coming apart at the seams. Themselves, I love that. The Christians stand, what did we do wrong? What could you have done? What could we have done? I'm a terrible Christian. I'll admit it. I'm a terrible, a faithful. I am almost never in church. Of course, I'm practically on my way to being a shut-in because of my physical condition. I almost never go to church. But even I can see which way the tide. Christianity has always been fighting an uphill battle, and it's only now sinking in just how far downstream washed. Could we have prevented this? I don't know how. We live in a world that's determined to die. I think this state of affairs was inevitable. In a conflict between a free religion, a free church, and a state church, the state church is going to win. The church has been atheism almost a century. Coming! Just a second. Sorry, I didn't mean to yell in your ear. I'm back. We live in an age of loonies. Look, we rejected when we accepted Darwinism as science. We rejected objectivism. Think I'm overstating it? Consider the leapfrogs people have to do to continue believing in the first church of Whoopsie Doodle. That's my name for it. The first church of years and years and years and Whoopsie Doodle. The end times aren't nigh, they're here. That there is a particular clock counting down to when Christ. I think it's more a question of a barometer. That God, when the time is right, when the seasons are right, when the conditions of the world are where they have to be for his return. Do you follow what I'm saying? I believe that God gave man free will, and man is continually making choices, and those choices can and must be affecting how the future is going to play out. If you follow what I'm saying. Church, Christians have gone through eras fed to lions. Okay, we are not at the bottom of the barrel yet. It's pretty terrible out there. It's horrible out there in many parts of the world, but here in America, it has not reached quite that point yet. I'm annoyed at people who dismiss, oh, you don't know what persecution is. Just shut up about that. Because sufficient to the day is the evil thereof, I believe is the term. When they talk like that, when they dismiss, they're dismissing human beings' struggles and grief and misery. No, they haven't been fed to lions. People that own, those Christians who owned that bakery lost their livelihoods because they refused to bake a cake for a pervert. They're not the first. They're not the. There's a place where a place was they're shutting down too. They're not holding any more weddings. They haven't declared bankruptcy because they're keeping them open, but they don't dare because they would be expected and demanded to host gay weddings. And their choice was stay open, refuse, and be sued into oblivion, or declare bankruptcy and slide into oblivion. They are already conspiring to destroy us. So don't go belittling difficulties. And they may not be put on the rack, but a child who is dragged by his ear by his own government to a school where he is mocked by his teachers for his grief stands before God too. And it's not like we aren't facing some real, horrifying, real-life persecution in this world. Look, here, let me show you something. Let me show you something. Let me pull up an image. Here we go. While our president sits around diddling and kissy-facing with Muslims, Muslims in another area of the world are doing this to Christians. That's exactly what you think it is. They stuffed a bunch of their prisoners in a cage and then lowered them into the water until they drowned. They took a man on fire. They've been beheading people by the hundreds. They at least 20 men lined up on their knees, men with machetes standing behind them waiting for the signal. That's what is being done to Christians all over the Middle East right now. And our supposed benevolent, blessed president thinks that global warming is the biggest threat to the world right now. He couldn't care less. And if it happened to us here in this country, he couldn't care less either. And neither would any of his cronies and sycophants. We've had Muslims over here murdering Christians and Jews, and our leaders don't care. Tell me we're not in an age of persecution. The age of persecution never stopped, it just diminished. Groups of people who are banned, harassed, threatened for criticizing the militant feminist movement. We've got men insisting they're women, black women insisting they're white, feminists who are running roughshod over all of society, running around, oh, I'm being persecuted, I'm being persecuted. Muslims, how do you Muslim extremists? Bullcrap. Between a Muslim and a Muslim, a regular Muslim and a Muslim extremist is one hasn't declared jihad yet. The exact same thing. If I go and find myself in the middle of a Ku Klux Klan rally, I'm not going to distinguish between the one up there burning the cross and the one in the back row just sitting there mildly. Nearly a third of all Muslims interviewed in this country say that the murders, violence, and terrorism committed in the name are probably legitimate. And that number is higher everywhere else in the world. There's not a radical Muslim minority. There's Muslims. They're all just a varying degree of radical. It's a principle called taqiyya, deceit. If you're an infidel, it's perfectly acceptable for a follower of Allah, a follower of the Prophet of Muhammad, to put on a performance to deceive you. In fact, they're considered blessed for deceiving you. They are from a socio-political movement. Deceit of non-believers is a virtue. But we can trust them. They're the religion of peace. Boom. 1925, they established because a judge said, well, this is, and the government came out and taught it as such. For 90 years, they taught every generation of children that they were the children of monkeys. And they're astonished that they're acting like monkeys. Prove your assertion. You just had to get a judge to say it was true. False were just matters of who got the last say in a court. The Bible and reality said, the way the world is, this is what you have to do. People said, we don't want to believe that. We want to do this over here. And reality slapped them in the face because it wouldn't work. They tried all their ridiculous theories and they didn't work. So they came back and insisted that reality didn't pan out the way they wanted. So they stopped believing in reality. A matter of opinion and absolute truth. Dickie Dawkins, Richard Dawkins, I am an expert on evolution because I say I am. I am much more educated than you, therefore my version of truth is stronger here than yours. In facts versus fallacy, or right versus wrong, they believe in the loudest voice is the winner. All this rights. This wasn't what the Founding Fathers were talking about. They were talking about inalienable rights bestowed by our Creator. Ones that afforded every human being dignity. Nowadays, the pursuit of human rights, quote unquote, a large loud people, they want it. They have a right to free health care. They have a right to a job. They have a right to housing. They have a right to $15 an hour. They have a right. I have a right. I have a right. They're spoiled little children throwing a tantrum in line at the mall because mommy won't buy them a bag of Skittles. Marriage is not a right, it's a definition. definition of one and only one form of union. They want to change that definition so that they can use the law to bully anybody who disagrees with them. Beginning, middle, and end of story. This is how screwed up. Our country was supposed to be of, by, and for the people. Instead, it's become of, by, and for the Supreme Court. 5 people, not even a unanimous decision, 5 of the 9. 5 arrogant people. Overruled the will of the majority of our nation. 300 million people in this country, and 5 people's opinions held more weight than all. That's their idea of a democracy. Democracy is 3 wolves and a sheep voting for what's for dinner. It's a terrible system. And then all 3 wolves still got a vote. In this system, it's 1 wolf who votes. I'll tell you this, I'm looking forward to the next few weeks. Because the queers are going to be absolutely insufferable. And the queer fan club is going to be even worse. I'm tired of calling them gay. There's never been a more miserable bunch. I mean, how miserable do you have to be that your entire world lies in ruins if you don't get to play house? But yeah, they're going to be absolutely insufferable. They're going to be strutting and preating and bragging and, ha ha, we got what we wanted. Yeah, 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 yeah. It's going to be like being trapped in a building full of smug 6-year-olds. I got an ice cream cone. Ha 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 ha. I got my way. I got. I want to smack myself just listening to that. And that's how it's going to be for months. And they're never going to shut up. And they're not going to give us any space either. They're not going to go, oh, well, we got what we wanted, now we just... They're going to push it. They are going to push it. They are going to do everything in their power to abuse this privilege by fiat and rub everybody else's nose in it. I said 5 years before they start arresting. I'm starting to think that maybe we ought to just say hours. How many hours till some insufferable? I mean, the wicked all. You remember when September 11th went down? I remember the footage. They don't air it anymore. They don't air the footage anymore. They really don't air the footage they took from Muslim cities around the world. They switch from camera to camera. Muslims out in the street dancing and singing. Children celebrating were still smoldering. The stink of human air, and they were out there dancing. Falafel, Durka Jihad. Toward detonation. Did you see his face? But did you see it? Oh, quick, throw some more candy. Another person jumped to their death. Yay! It was revolting. And I guarantee you, they're going to be. You think that the pride you think the gay pride marches were bad before? You know, this doesn't in the real world. It doesn't. I'll say this much. They have said the same thing. These are signs of the times that the world can't last much longer. Imagine what the average Christian or Jew in Germany in 1941. They're up close and in person. An early preview. I'm not going to sign this world off, you know, as done for. Because quite frankly, there's no way to tell. Oh, Riley King, yeah. There are going to be very wars, too. Like I said, people are constantly predicting the end times for next week. To God. Much. I can look back at history books in history and far worse, more oppressive, and far more depraved. So there's no telling. All we can do for our little corner. Preach the word. Pass on the message of salvation. Fight for the live the values that we believe in. And whether it's the end times or just another turning of the times, we'll come out the other side. Right now, though, it is a real low point. Well, it seems pretty obvious that Ted Cruz is going to be the Republican candidate. And one of the things he's promised is that is when he gets in office, what he's going to do is overturn orders that Obama wrote. And I'm like, darn good stuff. It's a nice place to start, yes. If we get just one man in there who is willing to do that. Even if we get a moderate president, Obama has sucked so badly at being a president that whoever gets in there, unless they are a Democrat too, like the Return of the King, you know, he's going to look like 1,000 times better just by comparison. Obama has made this job so easy to look good. They could elect a stuffed. Our leadership has been so bad, so awful, that we could have literally put a magic 8-ball in the White House. And it would have done a better job. Because by random, I mean, if you're just incompetent, if you're just, you will do the occasional thing right, if for no other reason than. You have to be willfully malevolent to do things as bad as has done them so consistently. You know, the old saying, even a broken clock is right twice a day. I'm going to switch you over here soon. See what I'm doing here a little bit. should be showing what I'm doing. I don't know why it's doing this. Over. Get this in over. Waiting for the program to finish whatever it's doing. stick I gotta fix. I'll be honest. I don't want to think that the world is going to end. I got stuff I want to do. Still sleepy. Not as much as I need to. Getting by, you know. I wonder how many more years green and green on black are going to be associated with computer screens. Shoot, we still have an old analog telephone to represent our cell phones. Let's see. Other than will we see a rebound? That's my question. Or is this just the first step down the final slope? Or, you know, last chance to turn back. Are we going to see? I think we have never really seen reform in our society or in our government in quite some time. Let's address the fact that at one point we had a Republican president, Republican majority in Congress, Republican Senate too, as I recall, And despite having all that, they had all that. They had hat trick, all bases loaded, and they promptly started sniveling about how they needed to cooperate more with the Democrats, and they folded like wet toast. They could have enacted all sorts of reforms and changes and turned back the clock on the mess that had been made of the country, but they folded because a majority of them are Republican in name only. Too many of them. Oh, we just want the West to be our friend. So small wonder we're struggling. Sorry, we got people surrender rather than try and win a fight. I wanted the French to move to Paris. Haven't done any writing in any of my short stories or my fan fictions lately. It's been rather quiet. Yeah, I did a new chapter of Return of Darth Vulcan, but that was Monday. It's been a while. Haven't done much. I don't know. I suppose I'm just feeling a little bummed out about everything right now. It's just not much good news lately. A couple of people that made donations. I've got a $100 donation. Debating on who to give it to. The electric company, the landlord, or the IRS. But and the electric company probably would be first. That's about a third bill. I'm still trying to catch up on the electric bills from winter, is what it is. I think I'll switch over to the other program to do the coloring, just to save time. We actually got some real rain rolling in right now. I'm happy with that. I like rain. I do. Like I said, I'm a pluviophile. That's somebody who likes rain. No. That. Sketch folder. Beg your pardon. Burp. I saw a rather cute. Okay, this was funny. I have to admit. I saw a new children's book in the Walmart's books section. Big bright picture book. It's for reading to baby. And I forget the name of the actor that wrote it, but the title is "Your Baby's First Word Will Be Dada." And what it is just a picture after picture of different farm animals. Farm animal daddies saying to their babies, "Dada, say dada." You're supposed to read. The idea being is that you read this out loud to the child. Apparently his real baby's first word was "load the deck" for next time. Let me see if I can pull up an image of it. Here we go. It's by Jimmy Fallon. Who is Jimmy Fallon? I forget. Jimmy Fallon. There's the page. It's page after page like this. You know, a cow. The cow says "dada." The cow says "moo." The ram says "dada," and the little baby sheep says "bah." Dada. Oh. Dada. And all together now, Dada. the humor is impressively meta. Well, you get the idea. The bull says moo. I'm guessing you were talking. Let's see. Robert Matthews, long and tiresome day in state school library land. Stuck your neck out and expressed your honest views on bad judiciary actions. Oh, yeah. Preaching to the choir here, I suspect. Um, really haven't seen anything that stands. I'll say this in Sky, still a great story. I mean, it has, it has. I loved it. It was great. It had action. It had comedy. It had romance. It was the first half of it. Then it really picks up. And it turns into. You remember the Great Race movies? You know, those magnificent, the Great Race around the world, and and all these different movies that came out in the 50s and 60s of all these competitors racing in various vehicles for various goals. It was. I loved those movies. They were great because you didn't just have one protagonist; you had teams of them, and you could root for whichever one you wanted. It was a brilliant formula, and I'm sorry to see they don't do it anymore. And it's a mad, 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 mad world was probably the pinnacle of that one. But basically, halfway through the book, about 10 or 20 chapters in, it turns into a great race contest, and it is absolutely brilliant. I loved it. The only thing I didn't like was that at the end of it, pretty much pretty much everybody, even Rainbow, had hints of romance in the air, except for Twilight. Twilight was the only one, and she was the only one that looked in the mirror and noticed that she was hairs in her mane. That was so sad. Come on, give her some love. Give her. I don't know what it is. I mean, I've had people that have her write her character as, quote, asexual. I'm like, what does this say? What is being said here? To some extent, although I have character, I absolutely adore Fluttershy. Okay, I won't lie. But in some ways, Twilight Sparkle is the one I identify with most. Growing up, I had a reputation as an egghead. it never panned out. You know, everybody talked how smart I am, how smart I am, how smart I am. And if I'm so smart, why ain't I rich? That's my. I was considered above the curve in just about everything, and really, they say the worst thing you can do for a kid, don't tell them how smart they are or how clever they are, how talented they are. Tell them what a hard worker they are. Oh, you really worked hard on this. That kind of thing. That sounds like a trivial thing, but when you tell somebody, when you tell a kid, or you tell anybody, that their success is due to the fact they're smart, in a way it's the same as if you had told them their success was due to the fact that they were pretty, or that they were tall. It's not directly. You know, they go along, you know, they get used to being the smart one. And then when they hit adversity, or when they reach a place where other smart kids are competing, and suddenly they're average, and they're like, you know, why did I stop being the smart one? The ones who did the best, they found that the kids who did the best are the ones who were encouraged by telling them, yes, you showed them, you don't tell them how talented they are, you tell them how hard they worked, because that encouraged them to place their evaluation of themselves on how hard they worked, rather than just accepting it as their just due for being smart. And that made a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense to me. You know, I'm wandering off topic here. Is Twilight is, you know, the one who's, she's always been she's obviously always been groomed as being clever and talented. At the same time, she's she's with the she loves reading. I always love, I mean, we're like candy to me, and I'm not exaggerating. Literally, if I was grounded, I was forbidden to read. That tells you how much I love books. If she's not going to be a lesbian, they'd rather that she was alone for the rest of her life. I got a real issue with those that, okay, this whole asexual thing. Okay, it's bad enough that they've got to where they accept a perverted sexuality. But now they're insisting that having a non-functional sexuality at all is quote-unquote normal. No, that's a that comes down to biological dysfunction. Okay. If you do not have a sex drive at all, there is a serious problem. Of course, we live in a society where having a screwed up is considered, or we are forced to call it normal. in another, you're not allowed to call a sickness anymore. And so that makes you can't help somebody if you're not allowed to say what's wrong with them. That goes whether you're talking about anything, psychology, medicine. If you're not allowed to say what's wrong with them, you can't help them. It used to be, here's a good example, is one of the things that the homosexual movement has managed to get erased from the cultural language. This is called gay bowel syndrome. And this wasn't, just invented by angry little old women who wanted, in a back room, who wanted to spoil the gay people's fun. This was a term that was used by doctors, emergency room doctors, family physicians who had who had to deal medically with homosexuals. And sexual behavior of the average was incredibly unhealthy. I cannot even begin to the symptoms of gay bowel syndrome. They're that unpleasant. You can look the phrase up, that actual phrase and a description of the condition. They called it a syndrome because it was just accumulating of the symptoms that resulted from sodomy. But you're not allowed to call it that anymore. You're supposed to pretend that it's just a coincidence that a homosexual man has all these physical problems at the same time. You know what? I'm just okay. I've said this before. I'm not going to be a hypocrite. Okay, fine. I'm not going to be a hypocrite. Just give me a second here. Coloring here. Okay, half the problem we have with some of these social issues is that we are, to describe them in full. How can preachers preach, even bring themselves to say what it is, describe it? Let's see here. Here we go. We got it on Wikipedia too. It was first used by Henry L. Cazal and colleagues in 1976 to describe the various sexually transmitted perineal and rectal diseases and sexual trauma seen in Cazal's proctology practice, which had many gay patients. It was used to describe a complex of gastrointestinal symptoms affecting gay men. The first used in the pre-HIV area. Let's see. Reported causes include herpes virus, syphilis, gonorrhea, chlamydia, campylobacter, shigellosis, as well as a variety of protozoal infections. This doesn't also, they don't list here, among others, that was his fecal impaction. That's where wounds, the tissues in the rectum are not meant for the abuse that they are put to by homosexual men. They tear. And fecal matter gets impacted into these wounds, and you can imagine the results. The concept of gay bowel syndrome was later expanded to include various opportunistic cancers. Transmission of disease was considered to take place by two routes: fecal oral route, anal rimming. Some difficulty in specifying the method may be a result of transmission of both methods. Following the onset of the AIDS epidemic, the reported incidence of these complaints has declined, likely as a result of changing sexual practices. My wager would be on changing willingness to tell the truth. Now look at this. This is how well people... It should not take a lot of brains to figure out that ramming something up somebody's rear end is going to have negative biological and physical consequences. But this is the statement. Let's see here. Gay bowel syndrome? Question mark. Yeah, right. That's the attitude. You're not allowed to. You're not allowed to call it that anymore. You're supposed to pretend that it was, just a coincidence that he can drive a dump truck up his own rear end. And then he's got cysts in the wall of his rectum, filled with and fecal matter. If any of my comics were, yeah, let's change this. Let's move, moving along. If comics were made into cartoon shows, who would I want to voice my? There you go, straight from gay bowel syndrome to talking about voices for my company. There you go. Quite a topic leap there, though some people would say. Not quite as far as I think. I've overreached. My reach exceeds my grasp. I am. This probability bomb project is probably the most ambitious thing I am capable of. The idea of me producing or directing or being the creative mind behind a animated show or even just being the referenced creator of the based on a cartoon by I don't know that level of professionalism, and I would be adrift. I would be at sea. I wouldn't know what to do. And the idea of picking out voices for them, I have trouble imagining what their voices sound like. I really do. It just quite, you know, I just can't hear the voices in my head that way. Oh, I mean, I don't have any particular voices in my head or in my mind when I'm writing these guys. I've heard several people try and do voices for Quentin. Well, really, you know, they get that irate voice. They've tried that, and it doesn't really sound right. What I think of is sounding like an 8-year-old, like an 8-year-old, like a young child, 8, 9, 10 years old. Young boy, his voice should be pitched high enough that he can be mistaken for a girl. Not too high, but you know, but he should sound like he should sound either like a young boy, but he undiscerning like a young girl. Listen, to anybody listening now, if you're watching this, if you have got a commission here, a character in here, and it's already appeared, and you feel that it hasn't been, that your character hasn't been given enough screen time for the donation you made, do sing out, because I am trying to keep track of all the characters and to make sure that everybody gets fair representation in the comic. You know, and that somebody who paid for a full, a full walk-on part up, just getting the backlog treatment. This time. Set it down. There we go. I've got like, I really got to start like putting Dayglow labels on various things on my desk. Why is it that every little electrical gadget now is black? Have you ever noticed that? The phones, the cameras, the cords, the mice, the computer mice, everything is like matte black. I'm sitting here in my dimly lit anything, you know. I can't tell anything apart. All I see is this black too, so it sticks right out there, easy to find. this wrong. I don't know. I don't know. No idea what their voices are like. And I'd be sitting there, no, it doesn't sound anything like him. While they march a few thousand people in and out to be the voice actors. I've said this for years. If I'd have had a little more spine, I would have gone with my own plan. If I just had a little bit more spine, I would have gone with my own plan. I would have gotten a trailer or an RV. Instead, I got talked into a mobile home. Because owning your own home is really important. And because my mother, the moment I told my mother that I intended on buying a trailer, she threw a fit. And when it wouldn't listen to her, she went and she threw a fit at my dad, who started chipping away at me from the other direction. The next thing I know, I buy a mobile home which hasn't moved from this spot since I was born. And, you know, my plans were forever chucked down the drain. My plan was to get a trailer, one that I could hook to my van, or an RV, one that I could drive anywhere. And with a trailer, I could go wherever the work was. if or if things were looking bad in one state, I could go somewhere else. I would have been mobile. I would have had much over my situation. I would have had more options, but I do not have them because it would take probably more money than I have made in my life to pay to move this trailer from one place to another. So basically, I've got the disadvantage. The only advantage over a trailer is that space. Just that's it, space, which I have only used to accumulate more and more junk. Otherwise, I mean, it's not as well built as a trailer would be. It is not as durable. It is definitely not as mobile. It's to heat and cool. First of all, because it's a mobile home, it means it's built like a tin-plate cracker box, and it's large to cool and heat on when you're scraping by on pennies. Now, I used to live in a space that was no bigger than the living room I have now. It was more than enough for my needs. But that's an old complaint. It's an old argument. It's an old discussion. It is at least 5 or 6 years old complaint, and it's long past. But I was going to advise: don't get a home. Don't get a home. Don't get a house. Get a mobile home. Not a mobile home. Get a trailer. Get a good sturdy vehicle you can pull. Or get a Winnebago, an RV, something like that. Because you will have noted that there are changes springing up in various states. For instance, Texas. If I could push a button and just trade my situation here for an identical one in Texas, I'd do it. Because they are making economic and financial and political decisions that are far more in tune with the one of the things they've done is they have recently declared that they are setting up a $1 billion reserve of gold in the state. They are not letting the federal government touch it. It's theirs. And it will effectively be a way for them to make their own money. The rest of the country goes down the toilet. They will be able to use that $1 billion of gold to make this Texas cash. To that state. Right now they're one of the most conservative states in the union. They are well set up. If they wanted to, they could secede and secede. And as bad as a fiat currency collapse can be, it may very well be that the United States breaks up within the next 20 just because it won't be able to pay all the bills at once. take very little country into an archipelago. Or a banana republic. I'm so tired of this. I really am. I'm so tired of every time there comes up an opportunity to turn. We were the Republican Party back during the Bush administration. They had everything. They had the White House. They even had the Supreme Court. And they crawfished. If they had just grown a pair of testicles for just a little while, Obama would have never come within spitting distance of the White House. All the Republican Party could do was out McCain, put the most, it still makes me appalled what they did to Sarah Palin. She was what the American people wanted. She was what the conservatives in this country wanted. We wanted a conservative, a family values conservative. And the fact that they made her vice president and then dropped her like a hot rock, vice presidential candidate, and then dropped her like a hot rock, it just underlined the fact they know exactly what the American people is. They're not deaf, they're not stupid, they're not blind. They know exactly what all the conservatives and the Tea Partiers and the other people and the struggling taxpayers and the honest, decent people of this country want. They know exactly what we want, and they would rather rot in hell than give it to us. They could have won that election if they had nominated Sarah Palin for president. They could have won, but instead they went for a weak-kneed milksop of a liberal Republican, a rhino, because they thought that the press would love him. Oh, they love him. He's so nice. They like him. They like him. They'll be our friends. It was the liberals. It was the liberals who were saying that they should nominate McCain. McCain is a staunch moderate. He'd be perfect. He'd be perfect. Big tip, you big high rollers in the GOP. Quit taking advice on who to run from your enemies. Morons. And they came and everybody loved him. All the liberals loved him. All the Democrats loved him. All the press loved him. They loved McCain. And then he got nominated. And suddenly he was the great Satan. The instant he became nominated, there were caricatures of McCain running around of him with blood all over his face and his mouth full of shark's teeth. This was how subtle they were. He would have bent over and taken it up from the... If he had been president, he would have bent over and taken it up the rear end from them anytime they asked. And he was still too conservative for them. then Obama came riding in on his magical unicorn. Black. He was so liberal that he farted rainbows. And that was the end of the contest. In a nation is run by children. Spoiled little children. You know, it's my right, gimme, gimme, gimme. Spoiled little children yelling for a bag of Skittles in the checkout line. Full of children. Spoiled little children. You are never going to win an election against Santa Claus. You had these people out there. They were talking about Obama. I mean, they were literally screaming and squealing and fainting in the audience when he came out and spoke. That one welfare queen standing there, oh, I'm not going to have to worry about my rent no more. He going to take care of us all. This is our world. We've got an entire nation living in the land of make-believe. What are we gonna do? And we are trapped in a building. We are trapped in a runaway train run by people who live in make-believe land. They live in the land of make-believe, and that's... And we cannot run. There is no place for us to flee. Oh, the liberals, when they get their tantrum running, the Hollywood liberals say, oh, I'm moving to Canada to get away from this. Oh, it's the end of America. They elected Bush. We're going to go move to Canada. And Canada's like, we're sending them back. Take them back. Where'd we go? What corner of the globe? First things first. Do I have any? So I'm just looking for a tile pattern that will work. Let's see. Gunmetal gray, maybe. That'll work. Okay, I'll be right back. Just hold on. Sorry to keep you waiting so long. I'm back. I'm back. That's no good. Edit. Undo. Edit. Undo. How do I make this transparent? Let's see here. Trying to see if I can set this to be semi-transparent. Whoops. Do. Layer. Where did it go? Okay. Where did it go? Well, I am currently Studio 5 to draw these, Mr. Klong. I also use Paint Shop Pro for some of the detailed work that I do. I found a Paint Shop Pro that Manga Studio 5 is a marvelous program. It has all sorts of gadgets and widgets I have been wishing for years. There are still some things that only I can only do in excuse me, in Paint Shop Pro. That's nice. That's not what I need. Need more factory, I guess. replace. That's the one thing that's missing in here is a color replace brush. It makes things difficult when I'm Oh, I'm sorry to hear about that, Robert. Mr. Matthews, just had an old family friend pass away. Y'all take care. I'm sorry to hear about it, kid. We got a real serious lag today. I mean, this is gonna be like... Don't know what the story is on that. Okay. Okay. In the evening, I'm going to go ahead and I'm calling it a night for now. I wish you all good luck for the night. And I will see you Monday. See you all Monday. And we'll pick up from there. Thank you all for watching.